Joined today by DeMark Liggins and Mark Spat from my54.org. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us this evening. And DeMark, I want to start with you. We're going to talk about the project here in just a second because it's really cool and we want people to get involved. But first, I want to know, are you a runner? Are you a walker? Are you a cycler? And if so, where do we see you out and about here in Atlanta?
No, I'm talking to the track club. I'm not going to disrespect you guys and call myself a runner. I wouldn't do that. I am an active person. I try to stay in the gym a little bit. Do try to do some exercise at home because of COVID. But I'm definitely not a runner, but I try to, track my heart rate, track my number of minutes and all that kind of stuff to try to make sure I stay healthy and active and all that stuff. And this environment, do that while, doing the reflection.
And Mark, I know you're a runner because I saw your shirt before we started recording here. Tell us about your running journey and where we see you out and about running here in Atlanta.
Yeah, you do. I am rocking my my old school retro Atlanta track club T-shirt that was definitely $5 at one of the peach trees I ran. I'm a solid wave E through G Peachtree runner, so I will make it all 6.2 miles, but it's not necessarily running every moment of it. So no, I'm sort of like DeMark. I'm out and about. One of the great opportunities that COVID has done with working from home is the chance to really get out and walk every day. Sometimes it's running. I live up in Sandy Springs, so it's quite hilly. So a 2-mile run here is like doing Cardiac Hill multiple times. And so for me, it's a chance to get out and walk 3 to 5 miles a day with my wife or by myself. It's a good opportunity to break up the day.
So correct me if I'm wrong here, but based on my Google sleuth work, DeMark, you're chief of staff at the Southern Christian Leadership Council, right?
Yes.
Conference. And Mark, you're a Cornerstone Investments, an investment banker.
Asset management firm, correct.
Okay, got it. How did you guys meet up? How do you guys know each other?
So we actually met, interestingly enough, through an organization called the Atlanta Black Jewish Coalition. And so the Atlanta Black Jewish Coalition initially was started in the 1980s by John Lewis himself and a few other members from the Black community here in Atlanta and the Jewish community to help lobby for the renewal of the Voting Rights Act, which, as we all know, originally was passed in 1965 as a direct result of the Selma March. And so the organization over the years has continued to build deep relationships between the Jewish and Black communities here in Atlanta. We actually met at a Black Jewish Seder that was held every other year, about 300, 400 people all coming together. Truly a wonderful, unique, meaningful experience to take that great moment of the Exodus that's so deep between the Jewish community and in the Black experience here in Atlanta. And so we met through that at that event, have remained friends ever since, and actually had participated together in a program that it does called Project Understanding, which brings 16 young Black leaders, 16 young Jewish leaders, and we spend a weekend together down in Peachtree City having intentional conversations, deepening relationships, and really engaging with each other in a way that might not be as easily possible without a great organization like the Black Jewish Coalition.
My54.org, I know, came out of as a sort of to mark the lives of C.T. Vivian and John Lewis. And those are recent passings. And this came about very quickly. I know it started in the beginning of August. Was this project in the works before they passed, or was this something you turned around and said, hey, these two great civil rights leaders have passed on. We need to do something immediately to remember their legacies?
Definitely the latter. Mark talked about our friendship, and we talk a lot, but we don't just have to talk for moments, right? And so he knew that I knew Reverend Vivian. Of course, John Lewis is legendary. And so that morning he calls and says, hey, how are you feeling as a human being? This is how I'm feeling. I just finished my walk. I'm inspired. And just kind of, I guess, system, that whole conversation, we kind of come up with this kind of idea, driven out of their lives. I know, it was kind of a very much a both of us thing, but one of the things that we kept impressing was, C.T. Vivian used to always tell me when I worked for him, DeMark, good people do good things because they're good, right? And so we really just wanted to say, like, hey, how do we do something like that, honor their lives, respectfully not talk on their behalf, and it just became really natural. What they did was inspire all of us. And we just thought, hey, let's try to do our best to get a platform together. We thought it'd be easy. We have been dead wrong on that. If there's anything we're wrong about, is the how easy it would be. But no, it has been amazing journey. I mean, it's myself, Mark, a whole team of us that are working. That has been much more impressive than what we could have ever thought of, and it's been great. But no, it was not, very much not pre-planned. We wish it was an idea on the shelf, but it was not. This has been very much on the fly, and we've been just kind of honored and humbled by the response.
So the initiative is to complete 54 miles either by running, walking, or cycling during the course of the month of August. That number 54 has a very real significance. Tell me a little bit about why you chose that distance.
Go ahead, Spat.
Sure. So 54 is the length of the Selma-to-Montgomery March. And so that's the distance from Selma to Montgomery that we saw in 1965. The Selma movement led as an opportunity to show solidarity and show the broader American community what is meaningful about this small town, relatively small town in Alabama, in Selma, but how they could use it as a real springboard to explain the problems of voting in the South to the rest of the United States. And so 54 miles, what it was, we all know the famous moments of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. When they first tried to do the march, that was, you see Hosea Williams, you see John Lewis standing in front on the sidewalk, John Lewis being unfortunately beaten, a number of people being beaten at Bloody Sunday, then coming back the next day, trying to do the march again, and eventually with support from the federal government is what it took to get it done. A group that started with a few hundred people and eventually blossomed to 25,000 marching on Montgomery to speak at the state capitol. They did that march over 5 days. When we first started thinking about it, one of the great ideas would be saying, oh, well, why don't we go to Selma and go walk for 5 days to Montgomery? And in a time of COVID, it's very difficult to try and do these types of events. Unfortunately, the track club is well aware of that. And yet at the same time, it's also difficult to get people to go take 5 days off of work.
Yes.
At the actual march, it's an incredible, if you see scenes from it, there were camps and concerts, and you had an incredible amount of people coming together at those moments. And it was really more of a joyous experience for everyone involved at the time that they were eventually able to do the full march. But in this case, what COVID enabled us to do is say not everyone could get to Selma, even if we could do it. And so this way, people around the country and potentially, and we have someone signed up outside the United States as well. So around the country and around the world, to be able to do their own march and to feel what it was like, not perfectly, of course, we can't really put ourselves exactly in the shoes of those who were there, but to understand the meaningful nature of what it was like to march those 54 miles.
And you're not asking people just to complete the 54 miles. There's more to this, and it's not about fundraising. But I think it's interesting, the broad range of initiatives you've asked people to do along with completing their 54 miles. What do you want people to get out of this beside the distance and the physical journey?
Well, one thing I would just point out from the beginning, and DeMar can go over some of the details of the intentionality that we've built into this, is there's an amazing line from a rabbi who walked with King at Selma, a guy named Rabbi Joshua Heschel. And someone asked him afterwards what it was like. And he said, when I walked with Dr. King, I felt as if I was praying with my feet. And so we really have taken that idea of praying with your feet and tried to build that into the program that we have people doing. So walking 54 miles, that's great. We're really excited that you do it. Your feet hurt by the end of it. And so you definitely act in a way that is similar to that movement that people did at the time. But what's more important to us is building intentionality behind that and focusing on what are questions that enable you to figure out what issues are important to you, and then figuring out and learning how to affect change in your community.
It seems to me, based on what you said at the beginning of the interview, that the Atlanta Black Jewish Coalition has been doing that for a really long time. How important is it to have those conversations especially in a time right now where we're in a heightened awareness and a more robust and alive conversation about civil rights than we've been in a long time?
I think it's incredibly important. I think, one of the things that did not go unnoticed to Mark and myself is I think people need to see our friendship, not because we're particularly that cool. Well, Mark is, but I know that
Yeah,
I'm not.
right.
But I think that it's important because the Black and Jewish Coalition and other groups like that across the country have been doing that. And I think it's important for us to all remember as Americans, hey, whatever you think you're seeing, there's still real people who connect with each other, and they're able to have really constructive conversations. We don't sit around and high five each other all day. We have tough conversations, but you do it with love, you do it with respect. And I think that's what makes us who we are as people. So we're very, very proud of being able to do that. And that's part of why we're kind of proud of that connection with the Black and Jewish Coalition, and others. I think that, and like Access and other things that are done coming out the AJC side. We're just really excited about being able to emulate that these conversations happen. And to be honest, to hope to at least add a touch of reality really to some of the things that people see, because it's just a misnomer and a myth that we don't get along. Some people don't. That's unfortunate for them. But I think for the vast majority of us, when we sit down with regular people, we talk about regular things and we try to have regular solutions. And I think that's really important in terms of moving our country more towards that beloved community.
What has the response been thus far? You're 12 days into the initiative. You said people from not just in Atlanta, but from around the country are doing this. Have you been surprised by the response? Pleased with the response?
Well, I'm trying to think. We were kind of hoping that we get an Emmy. No, we've been incredibly humbled and just I don't want to say overwhelmed, because we wanted people to share, so we're happy about it. We're definitely not overwhelmed by it. But I think the response has been nothing short of amazing relative to what you asked earlier. This started off on a phone call about 9 a.m. that Saturday morning. And even when we launched, it launches off and we've got not quite 1,000, but etching towards 1,000 people, dozens. And it sounds crazy. It's literally dozens of partner groups and things of that nature. It's been really, for me, humbling. It's been exciting. It's been fun to kind of scan social media and see what people are talking about. It's been fun for me because like some of my friends will text me, "Oh man, I didn't post, but this is what I was thinking about today." Or like my sister, who never likes anything I do, is like, "I really love your content calendar." I'm like, "I didn't do that. That's why you love it." No, it's been just exciting and humbling and this big ball of feelings, but it all feels good.
I saw one of your posts on Instagram, and you're asking people to consider getting into some good trouble, which of course is the famous John Lewis quote. What kind of good trouble do you hope people get into along the way doing this?
I think it's everything from understanding that they can make change in their community. So one of the things that's so interesting, we've noticed that the age of people who have been part of this, and not only are we in 37 states around the country right now, but we have people that ranges anywhere from 8 to 80 who are literally doing this. And so on the younger side, it's a chance to teach people that you have the ability to make change in your community. You have the ability to figure out what's important to you, learn about the organizations that are making a difference, and help them with your time, talent, and treasure to be able to really make that change. And then similarly at the older side of it as well, it's gotten people to think again about how they've interacted with the rest of the community and what the opportunities are for people who've had a lot more experience behind them. And so the good trouble we're looking for people to do is really to engage. And particularly with COVID, it's so hard for people to literally get out of your house sometimes. Absolutely. And to be able to look outside of that window and see what's going on in our community and see the ways that we can impact it for the better. I know, so we talk about what are our 54s, what are our issues that are so important. Mine is hunger, DeMarc's is voting rights. And so that ability to have a wide range of issues that we can help improve is something that we think is so powerful about the initiative. We know that there are great organizations who are doing fantastic work on the ground in things that they know, we recognize between DeMarc and I and the team of people that we have who are just amazing and put a ton of effort and time into this, we don't know what's the best way to solve hunger. We don't know what's the best way to solve voting rights. We know what's the best way to solve any other issue that's going on. But we do know that there are people who do. And this, the good trouble we hope people get in is to get beyond the kumbaya and get beyond the thoughts and prayers and get into actually doing something. And that's the most exciting thing for us.
The road of both issues you talked about, and I'm sure many of the others that are on people's other 54 lists is longer than 54 miles. How do you keep this going? How do you keep these conversations happening? How do you keep these people that have signed up for this engaged when their 54 miles are over?
That is a question I don't know. I think that's past my pay grade. I think that no, we've actually had some people that they text me. I know they were like, "Hey, I'm done." One, because we didn't flip it for bikers, so they I think they're cheating. I hope they're watching so I can tell them that. They're like my sister. One of her friends is like a triathlete or whatever. He banged it out in like 3 weekends or 2 days, whatever he does. But I mean, I think it's we're trying to see. A lot of it's going to see, just kind of where's the natural energy leading itself. One thing we've been big on from the start, we don't want to leave good energy on the table to do more good. We won't do that. But we didn't want to we really were conscious. We didn't want to kind of self-prescribe what we thought the world should tell us, right? We really wanted to really ask people to, like Mark was saying, dig into yourself and kind of reflect out what you're seeing, what you're feeling. And we'll do our best at the end of it to be honorable to their space and to see, what we can do with our little humble initiative to see, what we can do to keep conversations going.
You're providing the spark.
Yeah, one thing we've seen, which has been fascinating, is, as DeMarc mentioned, is that underlying creativity and opportunities that individuals have taken from this to their own, what they think they can do. So we had a call yesterday with a bike club here in town. And the woman I was speaking to there suggested, she said, what I'd love to do is a 54-mile bike tour here in Atlanta, ending at John Lewis's grave as a way to visit there. Now, I'm not getting on my bike for 54 miles, but there are people who do, and it's an amazing opportunity to try and engage with it that way. So over time, we see that you could do this as a small group. So a school group, a corporate group, and a church group could come together and find the issue that they want to engage in and do the 54 as their way of bringing their community together. And so there is a real opportunity to take the program that we've developed of understanding what's important to you and then learning how you can affect change with that, and enabling groups to really take a smaller group together to be able to focus on that and build it themselves and that creativity over time.
So the symbolism of the 54, the ability to do the 54, will live in the way you see it, live beyond this August 31st deadline and be available for people to use as a conversation starter for indefinitely.
That's the hope. I mean, I think that the legacy of C.T. Vivian and John Lewis is in the same way, right? There are not a lot of people who touch us like that their lives mean so much to kind of the spirit of who we see ourselves as Americans. That we can always reflect on them. And of course, we can always reflect on Selma. And I think Mark alluded to that earlier, that Selma and that march and that movement is really what kind of opened the door for what we could consider universal voting rights in this country, right? And so of course, along with the women's suffrage movement, but and contemporary civil rights movement. But the point is that's quintessential to us, right? As a country. And so, yeah, we definitely think that past the 30 days, there's always going to be a time to think about Selma, think about what that means, and really make sure that people can continue to incorporate that in their own space, their own, obviously, in their homes, in their neighborhood, their community, their city, their country, or the world. However that works out in real life, is we want to be a resource for that.
Mark, I have to ask you, as you're doing these 54 miles and you've done Peachtree a bunch of times, what's harder, 6.2 miles in one day or 54 miles over the course of a month?
I'm going to go with 6.2 in one day, except I have to say there are a few things more fun than running underneath that big American flag as you start off the Peachtree, and few things less fun than when you get to the bottom of Cardiac Hill and you see how much longer you still got to go.
Well, we hope to be seeing that again next July 4th for sure. tell people how they can get involved. I know it's August 12th as we're taping this, but for a lot of people who are members of Atlanta Track Club or members of the running community here, that's plenty of time to get in those 54 miles. So how do they sign up?
Join us on our website, my54.org. We make it incredibly easy. You sign up, give us your email address. We'll send you some welcome materials and what the intentional questions and thoughts are of the time that you're running to be able to connect with it. It's very easy. You do it on your own time. And definitely there is more than enough time if you're a track club member and you're out there running to be able to finish your 54 by August 30th, which is, of course, the date of the March on Washington.
Right, of course. And if you want to see what this journey looks like, if you want to get inspired by people who are doing it, your Instagram feed is awesome, at my54org. Find that on Instagram. Are you on Twitter as well, or just Instagram?
We're on Twitter and Facebook as well, all at my54org. Yep.
Awesome. Well, Mark and DeMarc, thanks so much for doing this. Thanks so much for talking to me, and good luck with the rest of the month.
All right, thank you. Hey, we can't wait to see your 54, brother, so I'll be on the lookout for it.
It is happening for sure. I just haven't signed up. I did 54 miles already.
And this is recorded, so we got proof. I'm ready.
As soon as we get off here, you're going to see my email come through, I promise.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.